Around 2001, when I was 10, my family moved to the southwestern United States. Our house was in a desert area with dirt roads and ditches. Young me thought it was awesome, and I spent a lot of time exploring, chasing lizards, and watching quail and roadrunners. One day, about a month after we had moved in, I was taking a walk through a sandy wash not too far from my house in search of scorpions. Though what I would do if I found one, I had no idea. As I rounded a corner, I spotted something behind some lone tumbleweeds. A drainage pipe, embedded into a 10-foot wall of dirt that made up the side of the wash. I didn't know what it was called or what specific purpose it served. I just knew that it was a tunnel. I peered into the cement tube. The floor of the pipe was covered in a thin layer of the wash's sand, and since I didn't see any light at the end, I couldn't tell how far it went. There was no way an adult could fit in there, but it was just perfect for a kid of my size. Like most kids, I was naturally curious, and like most kids, I didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking about what were and weren't good ideas. I just wanted to explore this new world. So, I ran home. I grabbed my dad's headlamp from a drawer and I took my old skateboard from the garage. I decided that it would be easier to roll on my stomach than crawl. I didn't bother telling my parents what I was about to do. Not because I thought they would say no, but because I just didn't consider it important enough to ask about. Like I said, not too much time considering good and bad ideas. Kevin, my 8-year-old brother, was looking over his Pokemon cards when he saw me about to leave the house. Of course he wanted to come, and I explained my plan as we headed back out to the wash. When we arrived at the pipe, I told him that he would have to come in with me, but I explained that there was only one skateboard, so he would have to crawl, and there was only one headlamp, so the narrow tunnel might be dark behind me. Kevin wasn't on board with either of those things. So, I strapped on my headlamp, laid stomach first onto the skateboard, and I entered the pipe alone as Kevin waited outside. As soon as I got in, I was immediately enthralled. I loved the idea that for 10 feet above me, there was nothing but solid dirt, and that I was traveling underneath it like a mole. The pipe was too thin to look backwards comfortably, but with a little effort, I could have turned around any time that I wanted. "What do you see?" called Kevin, his voice echoing. I shouted the details to him. My headlamp lit up a spiderweb here and there, and the skateboard's wheels crunched over the sand that covered the bottom of the pipe, which I'm sure wasn't good for them. As I went deeper, Kevin complained that he couldn't hear me. He finally yelled that he was bored, and that he was going to go back home. I yelled back a nonchalant, "Okay." I kept rolling farther into the pipe. Eventually, it curved. When I strained to look back, the light of the exit was completely hidden. The spiderweb soon stopped. Maybe the bugs that the spiders ate didn't bother going this deep, so neither did the spiders. The sand below my wheels started to become grainier, which started making the trip bumpier. The wheels even passed over a few rocks. The air started to feel different too. My month in the desert had accustomed me to dry heat, empty but hot, but there was a palpable weight to the cool air this far in. It was only about 20 feet after I rounded the curve when I started to hear a shuffling behind me. I almost started to panic. "It's me," came Kevin's voice. I berated him for startling me, but I have to admit to myself that I was impressed that he had followed me in. I tried turning to greet him, but he complained about the light shining in his eyes, so I didn't bother with the effort. We continued the journey. In my mind, we were two intrepid brother explorers, discovering the man-made bowels of the earth. After a few minutes, the layer of sand completely disappeared, leaving only the bare concrete pipe beneath us. The air felt almost damp. "What's that?" said Kevin. I looked up, aiming my headlamp. It was the opening to a smaller, narrower tunnel. We approached it. It appeared to intersect the tunnel we were exploring at a 90-degree angle, and it was higher up. I had to stand on my knees in order to look into it. "We should go in there," said Kevin from behind me. "See what's at the end." "What? You're like Indiana Jones suddenly," I teased. "You didn't even want to come in." It looks neat," he said simply. "And it's really small," I countered. "We'll fit," Kevin insisted. I considered this smaller pipe again. It would be a pretty tight squeeze, enough that I would have to abandon my skateboard in order to fit, and my shoulders would probably scrape against the edges. But yes, theoretically, I could fit in there and pull myself through. "The kids at school said that it was really neat," Kevin continued. "What? They've been down here?" I said incredulously. Yup. "Liar, what's with you?" I just think you should get into that tunnel," said Kevin. "I bet it's really neat in there." "What do you mean, I? You said that we both should explore it." "That's what I meant," he said. I was about to say something else, but he cut me off. "I'll give you something," he said. "Like what?" Whatever you want. "How about your holographic Blastoise?" I pushed. There's no way he was going to give up his favorite Pokemon card. "Okay." "Really?" After you get into the tunnel, he said. I peered back into the thin pipe. The headlamp only illuminated so much. Farther down, it was just a pitch-black tunnel. "I can't see anything," I said. "Turn off your light," said Kevin's voice. I pressed the button on my headlamp. It was immediately swallowed by complete, absolute darkness. The kind where you can't even see your hand in front of your face. I had never experienced it before. It was unsettling. Slowly, I looked to where I knew the narrow pipe was. I still couldn't see anything. Wait, no. There was something. I squinted. In the distant darkness of the narrow pipe, I could make something out. It was dim, but it looked like a light at the end of the tunnel. Only it didn't look like a regular light. It was red, and it gave me an immensely bad feeling. "I don't want to get in there," I said. You're a chicken, said Kevin angrily. "No, I'm not," I asserted. "I just don't think that it's a good idea." "Come on, don't you want your holophonic blamstone?" My blood ran cold. That was Kevin's favorite Pokemon. He had a poster of it hanging in his room. There was no way that he would have gotten the name wrong. "Holographic Blastoise," I said slowly. "That's what I meant." I swallowed. My heart fell into my stomach. It all hit me in a moment. He had been uncharacteristically aggressive. He was in the tunnel even though he hadn't wanted to be here. And how had he seen the small tunnel from behind me? Finally, my brain froze for a moment as I realized the worst part. Since I had been down here, I hadn't actually seen him directly with my own eyes. "What's the matter?" came Kevin's voice. And now that I was listening, actually listening to that voice, my brain confirmed what my heart had already figured out. Whatever was down here with me, whatever was directly behind me, it wasn't my brother. In that moment, I should have started booking it. I don't know what possessed me to do what I did next. Was it my inquisitive nature? Was it the grim curiosity that draws us to look at car wrecks? I don't know. But slowly, shakily, I flicked my headlamp back on, and I began to turn around to see what was behind me. There was a screech. I saw a blur of motion in the light of the headlamp, and before I knew it, I felt a blow against my forehead. The headlamp's bulb shattered. I was thrown into the darkness. I screamed. Something grabbed my wrist, and it didn't feel like a hand. I screamed again, yanking my arm back with all my strength. For several horrifying seconds, I pulled against the unseen thing. It evidently hadn't gotten a good enough grip on me, because by some miracle, I managed to pull myself loose. I immediately started scrambling away, completely abandoning the skateboard. It was a tool of comfort, not speed. The top of the pipe was thankfully not so low that I had to crawl. Rather, I could do a sort of shuffling run with my bent legs, using my arms to scramble like a monkey. And scramble I did, as fast as I could, blindly down the pitch-black tunnel. I could see absolutely nothing. Get back here! Came the shrill scream of my brother's voice behind me as I fled. But what was actually doing the screaming? I had no idea. From behind me came the sounds of whatever it was pursuing me. Limbs or tendrils or tentacles. I couldn't tell, but they struck against the cement with a sickening speed. I tried moving even faster, but ahead of me was only blackness. After a moment, however, I had a sudden realization. I had no idea which direction I was heading. After a while, I had assumed that there would be an exit at the other end of the pipe. I realized that it could be literal miles away. "Come on," came my brother's voice, this time in an almost pleading tone. "Come back. We'll go into the tunnel together. It'll be fun." Onward I scrambled. I could feel my knuckles getting banged up against the concrete of the pipe, and I could even feel blood trickling down my fingers. But I kept going. "Come back! Come back!" I rounded the corner and there it was. I could see the light of the outside. The exit. I didn't know what store of energy I had managed to tap, but I started shuffling even faster. I'd picked the right direction. I could see the sandy wash and the familiar tumbleweeds. "No," came the shrill voice. "I'm your brother. Don't leave me alone in this tunnel. Don't you love me?" Something grazed against my legs, but I kept hustling towards the light. Would I actually be safe once I was out of the tunnel? I had no idea, but I had to keep going. The circular exit grew larger and larger. "Come back!" the voice screeched. I tripped as I flew out of the tunnel and into the wash. Sand went everywhere, but in a moment I was on my feet. The bright light was almost blinding, but I began sprinting. My stomach sank. Kevin was nowhere to be seen. What had happened to my real brother? Had the thing gotten him? As I sprinted away from the drainage pipe, I stole a glance over my shoulder. But I was alone in the wash. No creature to be seen. Not that slowed me down much. I sprinted through the sandy wash as fast as the loose ground would allow. My shoes soon filled up with the sand, and I kicked them off and I ran in just my socks all the way home. Somewhere in my brain, I realized that I might have to explain to my parents that my brother could be dead, and that it was my fault. When I finally got to my house, I threw open the door and I slammed it behind me. I was so out of breath that I could taste blood in my mouth. Panting, I made my way to the family room. And there was Kevin. He was sitting on the couch, happily looking over his Pokemon cards as he watched a Disney movie. He looked up at me. "What happened to you?"